You don't have it. Well, you could read.
Okay. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. They're not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
Trinadapi sunichena taroyami sunisuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Someone chant English.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and one should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam va jagadish kamaye mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhaktiya haituki trayi.
Someone else?
Different person.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your costless devotional service, birth after birth.
Aninanda tanuja kinkaram pachitamam vishame bhavam buddho kripaya tava pada pankaja stidaduri sadrisham vichintaya.
O son of Maharajananda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
Nayanam galad ashudaraya padanam digato vadvira pulakai nichitam bapurkada tavanama grahane bhavishyati.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up and when will my hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
Yugayitam nimeshena chakshusha pravishayitam sunyayitam jagat sarvam govinda virahename.
Oh Govinda, feeling our separation, I'm considering the moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like
Torrents.
Of rain. And I'm feeling all
Vacant.
in the world of your absence.
Asisya vapadaratam varantumam adarshanam mahamatam karotuva yata tataya viduvam pato mat prananatastu sa evana para.
I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
Okay, well, let's say something a little different. No, it doesn't.
So last time we covered the preface, and now we're starting the prologue.
Now, this is this says this account originally appeared in a short work by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur entitled Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Life and Precepts, August 20th, 1896. This is what he sent to McGill University. So this was sent to Canada, University in Canada, by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in 1896, the same year Srila Prabhupada was born, and Srila Prabhupada thought this was significant, that the preaching in the West started the same year he was born with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Now, when we read this, most of it's going to be a lot of reading. We will make some comments, and we will have time for questions and answers, if you have any questions. And hopefully we have some answers. And we probably are not going to finish the prologue today, so everybody be patient. We have the rest of our lives, and someone can take over if we don't finish by then. So you can Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born in Mayapur in the town of Nadia, just after sunset on the evening of the 23rd Phalgun 1407 Shakabda, answering to the 18th of February 1486 of the Christian era. The moon was eclipsed at the time of his birth, and the people of Nadia were then engaged, as was usual on such occasions, in bathing in the Bhagirati with loud cheers of Hari Bol. So the Bhagirati is also the Ganges. Is any, you know any more? Okay, anyway. His father, Jagadananda Mishra, a poor Brahmana of the Vedic order, and his mother, Sachi Devi, a model good woman, both descended from Brahmana stock, originally residing in Shalhet. You know where that is?
Yeah, I looked it up, and Shalhet is in northern Bangladesh on the right bank of the Surma River. And Lord Chaitanya's forefather's house is there. It's Jagannath Mishra's father came from Sylhet to Navadvip for studying.
So Mahaprabhu was a beautiful child, and the ladies of the town came to see him with presents. His mother's father, Pandit Nilambara Chakravarti, a renowned astrologer, foretold that the child would be a great personage in time, and he therefore gave him the name Vishvambara. The ladies of the neighborhood styled him Gorahari on account of his golden complexion, and his mother called him Nimai on account of the Nimai tree near which he was born. Beautiful as the lad was, everyone heartily loved to see him every day. As he grew up, he became a whimsical and frolicsome lad. After his 5th year, he was admitted into a Pathashala, a school, where he picked up Bengali in a very short time.
Okay. So we know he was named Nimai because he was born near the neem tree, and Vishvambar means the maintainer of the universe, maintainer of all living entities.
Don't forget, this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote and sent to McGill University in Canada in 1896.
Yeah, he was a great pioneer for spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. He wanted to revive the purity of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So he smashed or he uncovered the faults of the Apasampradayas and regained the reputation for Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and took up the task of beginning the spreading of Krishna consciousness all over the world. And this was a big beginning. Right here? Is okay for everyone?
One thing about how he would, smash the Sahajiyas and different groups, impersonalists, Mayavadis. What?
Saki Bakis. There's so many.
But I was just thinking how Srila Prabhupada, when he came here, and in New York, and probably in the late 60s, the devotees went to Brooklyn Botanical Gardens, and they did a play, and there was these, I think, 2 sisters who played. One played Krishna, and one played Radha, and then there was the gopis, and they did this play, and they did it on video, and they told Srila Prabhupada about it, and it says Srila Prabhupada was very displeased because Prabhupada was thinking more of, I was thinking he was probably thinking of the Sahajiyas in India, and he was displeased. But then he went and he was sitting next to Radha and Krishna.
Radharani was fanning Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, right?
But nobody could take their eyes off of Prabhupada. I don't know if you noticed that. Everybody's looking at Prabhupada.
So, but it's interesting how Prabhupada, even when he came here, and he also talked about Sahajiyas quite a bit, but nobody really knew what he was talking about too much. And then in ISKCON in LA, they started some little Sahaja group, and then Prabhupada smashed that. But other than that, we really didn't see much of it. Sahaja is those who take Krishna consciousness
Easily, lightly.
take it, I don't know if the word's easily, but cheaply. They take it cheaply, like I love Krishna, and we're so far from really loving Krishna. If we loved Krishna, we wouldn't have any desires whatsoever for anything else. So you're going to read?
Yeah, and there's one group, the Sakhi Bekis, who they feel, since we're all feminine, Prakriti, that if they dress, Krishna likes the gopis, so if they dress up like the gopis, that Krishna will be attracted to them. So it's all external, thinking that's going to win Krishna over.
I don't think that has anything to do with why people are doing it here today, but.
No. Most of his contemporary biographers have mentioned certain anecdotes regarding Chaitanya, which are simply records of his early miracles. It is said that when he was an infant in his mother's arms, he wept continually, and when the neighboring ladies and his mother cried, "Hari Bol," he used to stop. Thus, there was a continuation of the utterance of Hari Bol in the house, foreshowing the future mission of the hero. It has also been stated that when his mother once gave him sweetmeats to eat, he ate clay instead of the food. His mother asking for the reason, he stated that as every sweetmeat was nothing but clay transformed, he could eat clay as well. His mother, who was the consort of a pandit, explained that every article in a special state was adapted to a special use. Earth, while in the state of a jug, could be used as a water pot, but in the state of a brick, such a use was not possible. Clay, therefore, in the form of sweetmeats, was usable as food and not clay in its other states. The lad was convinced and admitted his stupidity in eating clay and agreed to avoid the mistake in the future.
I just have to emphasize, this is very simple. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is trying to explain this to people who know very little, so he's just giving some simple examples of Lord Chaitanya, also calling him a hero.
Yeah, he uses some English terms.
Yeah, he uses
that they're
it.
familiar with.
So that way they may be able to understand it. First preaching in the West. Another miraculous act has been related. It is said that a Brahmana on pilgrimage became a guest in his house, cooked his food, and read his grace. So this, instead of offered his food, and read his grace, like you say grace, with meditation on Krishna. So, I mean, he's saying it because that's what they can relate to. And read his grace with meditation on Krishna. In the meantime, the lad came and ate up the cooked rice. The Brahmana, astonished at the lad's act, cooked again at the request of Jagannath Mishra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's father. The lad again ate up the cooked rice while the Brahmana was offering the rice to Krishna. So now he says offering the rice to Krishna with meditation. The Brahmana was persuaded to cook for the third time. This time all the inmates of the house had fallen asleep, and the lad showed himself as Krishna to the traveler and blessed him. The Brahmana was then lost in ecstasy at the appearance of the object of his worship. It has also been stated that two thieves stole away the lad from his father's door with a view to purloin his jewels and gave him sweetmeats on the way. So wanted to steal his jewels. The lad exercised his illusory energy and deceived the thieves back towards his own house. The thieves, for fear of detection, left the boy there and fled.
Another miraculous act has been described of the lads demanding and getting from Haranya and Jagadish all the offerings they had collected for worshiping Krishna on the day of Ekadashi. When only 4 years of age, he sat on rejected cooking pots, which were considered unholy by his mother. He explained to his mother that there was no question of holiness and unholiness as regards earthen pots thrown away after the cooking was over. These anecdotes relate to the tender age up to the 5th year. In his 8th year, he was admitted into the toll of Gangadas Pandit in Ganganagar, close by the village of Mayapur. In 2 years, he became well read in Sanskrit grammar and rhetoric. His readings after that were of the nature of self-study in his own house, where he had found all important books belonging to his father, who was a Pandit himself. It appears that he read the Smriti in his own study and the Nyaya also, in competition with his friends, who were then studying under the celebrated Pandit Raghunath Shiromani. Now, after the 10th year of his age, Chaitanya became a passable scholar in grammar, rhetoric, the Smriti, and the Nyaya. It was after this that his elder brother Vishvarup left his house and accepted the ashram or status of a sannyasi, ascetic. Chaitanya, though a very young boy, consoled his parents, saying that he would serve them with a view to please God. Just after that, his father left this world. His mother was exceedingly sorry, and Mahaprabhu, with his usual contented appearance, consoled his widowed mother. So this is a quick overview of Lord Chaitanya's life to introduce people to Lord Chaitanya.
And although he went to school, then he was homeschooled and learned more than the kids going to school.
That's a lesson to be learned.
It was at the age of 14 or 15 that Mahaprabhu was married to Lakshmi Devi, the daughter of Vallabhacharya, also of Nadia. He was at this age considered one of the best scholars of Nadia, the renowned seat of Nyaya philosophy and Sanskrit learning, not to speak of the smarter Pandits, the Nyayikas were all afraid of confronting him in literary discussions. Being a married man, he went to eastern Bengal on the banks of the Padma to acquire wealth. There he displayed his learning and obtained a good sum of money. I'm not sure what he did to acquire the wealth, but somehow he because he was intelligent, he figured out how to get money because he was just recently married. And also how everybody was afraid who were not, Vaishnavas, and Gaudiya Vaishnavas probably in particular, mainly just Vaishnavas, genuine, sincere Vaishnavas. They were all afraid to talk to him about anything because they just smashed their philosophies.
It was at this time that he preached Vaishnavism at intervals. After teaching him the principles of Vaishnavism, he ordered Tapan Mishra to go and live in Benares. During his residence in East Bengal, his wife Lakshmi Devi left this world from the effects of snakebite. On returning home, he found his mother in a mourning state. He consoled her with a lecture on the uncertainty of human affairs. It was at his mother's request that he married Vishnupriya, the daughter of Raj Pandit Sanatan Mishra. His comrades joined him on his return from Pravas or sojourn. He was now so renowned that he was considered to be the best Pandit in Nadia. Keshav Mishra of Kashmir, who had called himself the great Digvijay, came to Nadia with a view to discuss with the Pandits of that place. Afraid of the so-called conquering Pandit, the toll professors of Nadia left their town on pretense of invitation, and Keshav met Mahaprabhu at the Barokanagat in Mayapur. And after a very short discussion with him, he got defeated by the boy and mortification obliged him to decamp. Nimai Pandit was now the most important Pandit of his times. Is Keshav Kashmiri is the one who recited the glorification of, was it the Ganga? In so many
Lord
verses?
Chaitanya asked
then-
him to say some verses in glorification of the Ganga. And he sent 100 verses. It says like the wind. He just came out and said all these things. And then Lord Chaitanya pointed out, well, in verse number 63, there is this contradiction that the wife of the husband of, anyway, it was
Shivas.
of Lord Shiva. It is, anyway, there were certain things he pointed out which were mistakes that this great Pandit made in a few verses. He said there's a lot more that he can say, but he doesn't want to like be nitpicking on this. So Keshav Kashmir was like mortified how he was defeated by this boy, and he had a good relationship with Goddess Saraswati, at least in his prayers. And in the dream, Goddess Saraswati came to him and told him that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and you should surrender to him. It's not said, that's not all said here, but
This is just a nice overview. It was at the age of 16 or 17 that he traveled to Gaya with a host of his students, and there took the spiritual initiation from Ishwara Puri, a Vaishnava sannyasi and a disciple of the renowned Madhavendra Puri. Upon his return to Nadia, Nimai Pandit returned religious preacher, and his religious nature became so strongly represented that Advaita Prabhu, Srivas, and others who had before the birth of Chaitanya already accepted the Vaishnava faith were astonished at the change of the young man. He was then no more a contending Nayaka, a wrangling Smarta, and a criticizing rhetorician. He swooned at the name of Krishna and behaved as an inspired man under the influence of his religious sentiment. It has been described by Murari Gupta, an eyewitness, that he showed his heavenly powers in the house of Srivas Pandit in the presence of hundreds of his followers, who were mostly well-read scholars. So that's called the Maha Prakash. Maybe you've heard of it, where Lord Chaitanya, who usually didn't disclose his godhood, but rather remained in the role of a devotee, at Srivas Thakur's house, he, I guess, sort of let loose. He sat on the throne of Vishnu, and for, I believe, 21 hours straight, he allowed his devotees to come forth, and he revealed to them the form who was the devotees' worshipful Lord. Like Murari Gupta, he revealed the form of Ramachandra to him, and like that with the devotees, whoever was the Lord of their heart, he revealed to them and benedicted all these devotees. And there were several persons outside who were not allowed in, who were causing some disturbance and complaining. And there was one person who felt like, who was very humble and said, oh, I must be very sinful that I'm not allowed inside. And whereas everybody else was quite proud and thinking they should let us in. Why aren't they letting us in? They must be imposters. But when this one person was humble and saying that he was sinful, that's why he wasn't allowed in, they said, oh, he's one of them, let's get him. So he had to run for his life from there. But it mentions in here that Lord Chaitanya exhibited different miracles. And besides at Srivas Angam, displaying the Maha Prakash for 21 hours, he also displayed his universal form to Advaitacharya, and he showed Murari Gupta on a different occasion his form of Varaha. And he also, in the Rath Yatra, appeared in each Sankirtan party the kirtan party in the middle, and each devotee felt that just like Krishna, when he has lunch with the cowherd boys, is sitting in the middle, and they all feel that Krishna is looking at them. Everyone in the kirtan party felt that Lord Chaitanya was looking at them. So Lord Chaitanya exhibited several of his miracles similar to, Lord Krishna's pastimes, and you could see how they're related.
It was at this time that he opened the nocturnal school of Kirtan in the compound of Srinivas Pandit with his sincere followers. There he preached, there he sang, there he danced, and there he expressed all sorts of religious feelings. Nityananda Prabhu, who was then a preacher of Vaishnavism and who had completed his travels all over India, joined him at that time. In fact, a host of Pandit preachers of Vaishnavism, all sincere at heart, came and joined him from different parts of Bengal. Nadia now became the regular seat of a host of Vaishnava acharyas whose mission it was to spiritualize mankind with the highest influence of the Vaishnava creed. The first mandate that Chaitanya issued to Prabhu Nityananda and Haridas was this: go, friends, go to the streets of the town, meet every man at his door, and ask him to sing the name of Hari and lead a holy life. And then come and report to me every evening the results of your preaching. So two things: lead a holy life, chant the holy name of the Lord, and lead a holy life. That's what you got to tell people.
Yeah, nothing's changed. Instructions are the same.
Thus ordered, the two preachers went out and met Jagai and Madai, the two most abominable characters in Nadia. These two insulted the preachers on hearing Mahaprabhu's mandate, but were soon converted by the influence of bhakti inculcated by their Lord. The people of Nadia were now surprised. They said, Nimai Pandit is not only a gigantic genius, but is certainly a missionary from God Almighty. From this time to his 23rd year, Mahaprabhu preached his principles not only in Nadia, but in all the important towns and villages around his city. In the house of his followers, he showed miracles, which Jiva kind of explained already, taught the esoteric principles of bhakti, and sang his sankirtan with other bhaktas. His followers in the town of Nadia commenced to sing the holy name of Hari in the streets and bazaars. This created a sensation and roused different feelings in different quarters. The bhaktas were highly pleased. The smarta brahmanas became jealous of Nimai Pandit's success and complained to Chankazi against the character of Chaitanya, claiming it was un-Hindu. Actually, first of all, Chankazi, he's like the magistrate, kind of like the mayor or whatever, he's in charge. So the smarta Brahmins saying he's un-Hindu. One of the things they actually said was, they're taking these holy names of the Lord and they're giving them out to everybody, and it's going to lose its potency. And I was in Atlanta, Georgia. Prabhupada was sitting on the Vyasasan. I was behind Prabhupada, standing up, because if I hardly had slept at all. If I'd sit down, I'd probably fall asleep. So, and there was a play going on. And in the play, this is what they said, that they're taking the holy name and they're giving it out, and it's just diluting the holy name, and now it's losing its potency. And right then, Srila Prabhupada, he stopped the play. He didn't really stop the play. He started talking. So the play stopped. Everybody stopped. And he started explaining, actually, instead of losing its potency, when you distribute the holy name, it becomes even more potent. And then Prabhupada stopped talking. And then when they saw that it was time, they started doing the play again. But it was pretty funny because normally you have a play, you don't stop. But Prabhupada's talk explained the truth about the holy name. So the Kazi came to Srivas Pandit's house and broke a madanga there, and declared that unless Nimai Pandit ceases to make noise about his queer religion, he would be obliged to enforce Mohammedanism on him and his followers. This was brought to Mahaprabhu's notice. He ordered the townspeople to appear in the evening, each with a torch in his hand. This they did, and not Nimai marched out with his Sankirtan divided into 14 groups. On his arrival in the Qazi's house, he held a long conversation with the Qazi and in the end communicated into his heart his Vaishnava influence by touching his body. The Qazi then wept and admitted that he had felt a keen spiritual influence which had cleansed up his doubts and produced in him a religious sentiment which gave him the highest ecstasy. The Qazi then joined the Sankirtan party. The world was astonished at the spiritual power of the great Lord, and hundreds of heretics converted and joined the banner of Vishwambar after this affair. So the Qazi, he convinced the Qazi. Of course, the Qazi was actually a little scared when all those people were out there with their torches, and then Lord Chaitanya explained to him, but also he became convinced. Yes, so he joined the Sankirtan party.
Yeah, and at first they were having all the kirtans indoors, like Srivas Thakur's, and I guess the ecstasy just built so great that Lord Chaitanya just broke open the doors and they went to the streets to share the nectar of the holy names with every living entity.
This also happened in 26 2nd Avenue. Brahmananda just spontaneously, without knowing any of this, they went out on the street chanting and came back, and Prabhupada was very, very pleased, with them, and then told them a story of how this chanting was going out on the streets like that. So that's when Sankirtan or Harinam Sankirtan outside began. Also, I was in New York, and with Prabhupada, there was a kirtan, and Prabhupada's chanting. No, Prabhupada's chanting and playing. He's not leading. He's playing the kartals. The kirtan stops. He keeps playing the kartals. So then they start chanting again, and the kirtan begins. And then everyone's sitting down, waiting for Prabhupada to give a class. And then with the chanting getting a little more ecstatic, Brahmananda gets up with his danda, and he starts dancing. And Prabhupada smiles. So then everybody gets up and dances. And then the beginning of his class, Prabhupada's class, was Brahmananda was the first one to dance in our ISKCON. So he was remembering from the past when Brahmananda was the first person to start dancing, and he kept chanting until Brahmananda started dancing again. And Brahmananda, I guess, picked up on it and started dancing.
Buddhas also related that in San Francisco, they would chant inside all the time, but then Swamiji was over in his apartment and they thought, oh, let's go chant outside at Swamiji's. And so they went and they're chanting outside for a while, and then they see Swamiji peek out the window and do his like this. And they thought he meant, oh, stop, you shouldn't be chanting outside, But who was his servant at the time? Upendra? Somebody came running to get them and tell them, Prabhupada meant, come up. So they went up, and Prabhupada told them that, yes, you're getting inspiration from the Lord to take this chanting outside to the streets.
That may have been the first.
I don't know which was the
No, it
first.
wasn't the first, because they were going out even with Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Agreed. It was
Right
after this.
It was after this that some of the jealous and low-minded Brahmins of the Kuliya picked a quarrel with Mahaprabhu and collected a party to oppose him. Nimai Pandit was naturally a soft-hearted person, though strong in his principles. He declared that party feelings and sectarianism were the two great enemies of progress. So that's good to remember.
Finish the paragraph. Then.
Party feelings and sectarianism were the two great enemies of progress. And as long as he should continue to be an inhabitant of Nadia, belonging to a certain family, his mission would not meet with complete success. He then resolved to be a citizen of the world by cutting off his connection with a particular family, caste, and creed. And with this resolution, he embraced the position of a sannyasi at Katwa under the guidance of Keshav Bharati of that town. In the 24th year of his life, his mother and wife wept bitterly for his separation. But our hero, though soft in heart, was a strong person in principle. He left his little world in his house for the unlimited spiritual world of Krishna with man in general. Does it say that there?
It says in his house for the unlimited spiritual world of Krishna with man in general.
Yeah. After his sannyas, he was induced to visit the house of Advaita Prabhu in Shantipur. Advaita managed to invite all his friends and admirers from Nadia and brought Sachi Devi to see her son. Both pleasure and pain invaded her heart when she saw her son in the attire of a sannyasi. As a sannyasi, Krishna Chaitanya put up nothing but a kopin and a bahirbas, outer covering. His head was without hair, and his hands bore a danda stick and a kamandalu, hermit's water pot. You want to say something?
Well, you should say something.
Well, I think it's really significant and a good point to remember here that these party feelings and sectarianism were two great enemies of progress.
Not were two, were the two. In other words, there's two great enemies, not just were two, and there's so many more. Two great enemies of progress: sectarianism and what was the other?
Party feelings.
Party feelings. Can you give any examples of sectarianism and party feelings within ISKCON?
Krishna West.
Yeah,
Can be,
yeah.
you know, one
Yeah.
becomes fanatical,
Ritviks.
starts thinking they're better than others. Ritviks. Yeah. So we have some practical experience.
And people who think their guru is better than other gurus.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we see more than anything else. You know, that try to get people initiated by my guru. This is party spirit of sectarianism. And then Lord Chaitanya's movement, that wasn't there. Nobody said, who you initiated by? Oh, I'm initiated by this. Oh, my guru is better than that. You should get initiated, right? Or who do you want to get initiated? That didn't happen. You know, so this is, I mean, those other groups, it's a fact. There's Krishna West and there's the Ritviks, and there may be other, shoots off a little bit from ISKCON. But even within ISKCON, this is the most prominent thing. And it's nice. And it's mostly more, I would say, immature devotees. The ones who are more mature generally don't do that. You know, of course, you consider your guru, you know, he's the best for you, and he may be good for others, but you don't try to influence people because everyone's an individual. So anyway, this is the party spirit and the sectarianism that we find even nowadays in this movement.
And it can impede the progress of the mission. The mission is, you know, to benefit the whole world. And those type of feelings can actually get in the way of spreading Krishna consciousness.
It's also a fanaticism. That's so. I think we should all try to become more mature, and as long as the person is a bona fide guru, and then it shouldn't matter. As long as they're a bona fide guru within ISKCON, we should kind of, even out of ISKCON if they're bona fide. But generally, we want people to stay in ISKCON because we know more about that, who's bona fide and who's not. So anyway, then he took sannyas, which was a terrible thing for his mother, for his wife.
How old was she?
24 years old.
24 years old.
24
He was
years old,
24.
taking sannyas. Shaved his head.
Like some of the ISKCON sannyasis, they were this age too, which wasn't common, but Prabhupada had to establish the ashram to get the things going.
Okay, where are we up to? His biographers.
The Holy Son.
The Holy Son fell at the feet of his beloved mother and said, "Mother, this body is yours, and I must obey your orders. Permit me to go to Vrindavan for my spiritual attainments." The mother consultation with Advaita and others, asked her son to reside in Puri, the town of Jagannath, so that she might obtain news of him now and then. Mahaprabhu agreed to that proposal, and in a few days left Shantipur for Orissa. It's interesting here how the mother didn't want him to go to Vrindavan, so she consulted with Advaita and others. And I would assume Advaita and others didn't want him to go to Vrindavan either, because they wanted to be near him. So, hey, we can use you to help us to get him to go to Jagannath Puri instead. So that's what happened. He went to Jagannath Puri at that time.
It's not so far.
I mean, it was a little far, but not nearly as far as Vrindavan.
His biographers have described the journey of Krishna Chaitanya. That was the name he got after his sannyas, from Shantipur to Puri in great detail. He traveled along the side of the Bhagirati as far as Chhatrabol, situated now in Thana Mathurapur, Diamond Harbor, 24 Purgs. There he took a boat and went as far as Prayaghat in the Midnapur district. Thence he walked through Balasore and Kathak in Puri, seeing the temple of Bhuvaneshwar on his way. Upon his arrival at Puri, he saw Jagannath in the temple and put up with Sarvabhauma at the request of the latter. Just one thing about the Bhagirath, that's another name of the Ganga. The Ganga has many names. She's also known as Janavi. But we read that in the heavenly planets, the Ganga is known as Mandakini. And in the lower planetary systems, the Ganga is called Bhogavati. Just a little side information there for you. Sarvabhauma was a gigantic pundit of the day. His readings knew no bounds. He was the best Nayak of the times. Or doesn't, he was Nayak.
Oh, really? Oh.
What is it then?
Nayayika.
Oh, Nayayika of the times, and was known as the most erudite scholar in the Vedanta philosophy of the school of Shankaracharya. He was born in Nadia, Vidyanagar, and taught innumerable pupils in the Nyaya philosophy in his toll there. Toll is school. He had left for Puri sometime before the birth of Nimai Pandit. His brother-in-law, Gopinath Mishra, introduced our new sannyasi to Sarvabhauma, who was astonished at his personal beauty and feared that it would be difficult for the young man to maintain sannyas dharma during the long run of his life. Gopinath, who had known Mahaprabhu from Nadia, had a great reverence for him and gave out that the sannyasi was not a common human being. On this point, Gopinath and Sarvabhauma had a hot discussion. Sarvabhauma then requested Mahaprabhu to hear his recitation of the Vedanta Sutras, in which the latter tacitly submitted.
Chaitanya heard with silence what the great Sarvabhauma uttered with gravity for 7 days, at the end of which the latter said, Krishna Chaitanya, I think you do not understand the Vedanta, as you do not say anything after hearing my recitation and explanations. So Sarvabhauma is saying, do you have any questions? He didn't say anything for the whole time. Like, you understand it?
And he's so young, so he figures he must not be experienced enough.
The reply of Chaitanya was that he understood the sutras, but very well, but could not make out what Shankaracharya meant by his commentaries. So he understands the verses, he doesn't understand his purports. Astonished at this, Sarvabhauma said, how is it that you understand the meaning of the sutras, but do not understand the commentaries which explain the sutras? All well, if you understand the sutras, please let me have your interpretations. Mahaprabhu thereupon explained all the sutras in his own way, without touching the pantheistic commentary of Shankara. The keen understanding of Sarvabhauma saw the truth, beauty, and harmony of the arguments and the explanations given by Chaitanya, and obliged him to utter that if it was the first time he had found one who could explain the Brahma Sutras in such a simple manner. He also admitted that the commentaries of Shankara never gave such natural explanations of the Vedanta Sutras as those he had obtained from Mahaprabhu. Sarvabhauma then submitted himself as an advocate and follower. In a few days, he turned out to be one of the best Vaishnavas of the time. When reports of this came out, the whole of Orissa sang the praise of Krishna Chaitanya, and hundreds came to him and became his followers. In the meantime, Mahaprabhu thought of visiting southern India, and he started with one Krishnadas Brahmana for the journey.
Any comments or questions so far?
Yeah, we should ask. Do you understand anything?
Mataji, I just had one comment on the Bhagirathi. The name of Ganga is Bhagirathi because of Bhagirath. You know, he pleaded for Ganga to come to the heavenly planets here.
Right.
Bhagirath.
Right.
And Lord Shiva agreed to catch Ganga on his head, right? That's why you see him with the Ganga coming out.
Yes, and he's called Gangadhar because of that.
Gangadhar.
And you could ask people when you're at the Ganga, what's the name of the river? And then you could find out if you're in the heavenly planets or the lower planets. Oh, forget it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, though, that the Ganga is called something else in heavenly planets and lower planets. I thought that was interesting.
Any other comments or questions?
This is nice. Okay, we can read a little more. We have a little more time.
Yeah.
His biographers have given us a detail of the journey. He first went to Kurmakshetra, where he did a miracle by curing a leper named Vasudev. He met Ramananda Roy, the governor of Vijayanagar, on the banks of the Godavari, and had a philosophical conversation with him on the subject of prema bhakti, loving devotion. He worked another miracle by touching, making them immediately disappear, the 7 tall trees through which Ramachandra, the son of Dasarath, had shot his arrow and killed the great Baliraj. He preached Vaishnavism and Nam Sankirtan, chanting of the holy names of God throughout the journey. At Rangakshetra, he stayed for 4 months in the house of one Venkatabhatta in order to spend the rainy season. There he converted the whole family of Venkata from Ramanuji Vaishnavism into Krishna Bhakta. Along with the son of Venkata, a boy of 10 years named Gopal, who afterwards came to Vrindavan and became one of the 6 Goswamis or prophets, serving under their leader, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Trained up in Sanskrit by his uncle, Prabodhananda Saraswati, Gopal wrote several books on Vaishnavism. Chaitanya visited numerous places in southern India as far as Cape Comorin and returned to Puri in 2 years by Pandharpur on the Bhima. In this latter place, he spiritualized one Tukaram, who became from that time a religious preacher himself. This fact has been admitted in his Abhangas, which have been collected in a volume by Mr. Satyendra Nath Tagore of the Bombay Civil Service. During his journey, he had discussions with the Buddhists, the Jains, and the Mayavadis in several places, and converted his opponents to Vaishnavism, the worship of God as a person. Should I continue?
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Okay, we got to ask, there's like 3 pages left. Should we read them or should we end? I mean, if we end, we're going to read them next week. Any opinions?
I'd say read them next week. That's what digest.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. So what do you want to comment on this before you? Tukaram, he's famous.
Yeah, probably a lot of you have heard of Tukaram, especially those from India. He's well known for his, what was the name of his deity?
Vital.
Vital, yeah, Vital. He would go around chanting, and then at the end, the celestial airplane came for him, and his wife decided not to go with him. Is that right? I think I saw a movie or something once about Tukaram. There's a book and a movie out about him, but he was very renounced, very devoted to chanting the glories of the Lord and preaching to other people. So he caught up the spirit of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Madhya, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has written many plays on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right?
Plays?
Prayers.
Oh, prayers, yes, yes. What's that one? Vairagya Vijanija Bhakti Yoga, that's a famous one. Lord Chaitanya's come to teach renunciation, knowledge and renunciation, to give those. Yeah, there's prayers.
Any other questions or comments?
I know Omio knows about the Vasudev being cured.
Yes, Mataji.
Omio knows all of this.
No problem.
He grew up with this, right? These stories.
Where
No,
are you
Mataji.
from originally?
Bangladesh, Prabhu, Sylhet.
That's the same where.
Wow,
Wow.
the same place. Maybe you're related, a distance relative.
Same place, with whom? Mataji?
Same place as his Pope's parents.
Jagannath
Yes.
Mishra's parents
Yes,
have a home there. Yeah.
yes, Mataji.
Well, that's where he grew.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was-
yeah.
And then he went to study in
Yeah.
Nadia.
Yes, Mataji. But I did not grow up with this, unfortunately, with those stories, Mataji. I only read those stories when when I'm adult in US. Like, over there also people like they call themselves Gauriya Vaishnavas, but they mainly talk about, not mainly, they always talk about Krishna, not Mahaprabhu. I mean, they say Mahaprabhu, they don't discuss Mahaprabhu's pastimes.
Wow. Yes.
You see, Lord Chaitanya came as a devotee, and when anyone said he was God, he would cover his ears or jump in the Ganga, and he wanted everyone to chant Hare Krishna. That's why we chant Hare Krishna, even though today is the disappearance of Jagannath Das Babaji, and Jagannath Das Babaji was known to say that it's more important to chant like Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. More important to worship the Yuga avatar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But our Prabhupada said that we chant the Hare Krishna mantra because that's what Lord Chaitanya wanted us to do. And we're following in his footsteps.
Yes, Mataji.
But we cannot, we have to go through Lord Chaitanya in order to understand Krishna.
But
So we
Mataji,
also- Mhm.
Mahaprabhu had like two modes, right? Devotee modes and also Bhagavan mode, as you explained,
Right, Maha Prakash.
Yeah, this not only Maha Prakash, I think he did for 7 days and 7 nights. Even there are many other occasions, like, as you explained. So, I mean, so we don't really have to, I mean, why you really have to like think that he is in the devotee mode only, like,
Right, right.
He's mostly in the devotee mood. I mean, for teaching, it's not like he's also thinking of Krishna and separation. I mean, he's in the mood of Radharani, but he was teaching us how to be a devotee. So, but once in a while he showed who he actually was. It's like sometimes Srila Prabhupada is teaching and sometimes he would go into samadhi or trance. And then actually they asked Srila Prabhupada, because he went into trance and the devotees just were watching him for a few minutes and nothing was happening. So Hamsaduta started chanting and then everyone started chanting and then he came out of trance. But then they asked him afterwards, what should we do when you go into a trance, like he said, like you did today? He said, I don't do that often. That's what Prabhupada said.
You're so humble.
Like I don't do it that much,
They didn't know if they should remain silent or if they should chant.
Yeah, because some of the devotees said we shouldn't have chanted. We should have just said nothing because they don't not disturb his trance. And others said that they should chant. And Prabhupada said he said you could chant if you want. You could chant.
Chanting, okay.
So probably either one is okay. But anyway, so I'm just thinking Prabhupada mostly was just preaching, but sometimes he would fall into a trance, who knows, fall absorbed in pastimes of Krishna and lose external consciousness. But that wasn't very often. So I think Lord Chaitanya was more like that. Of course, he'd lose external consciousness sometimes because of trance, but then other times he'd manifest that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Mm-hmm.
So Prabhu, like, sorry, Mataji, please go ahead.
Oh no, he's ready to call his Sudarshan Chakra when
Yes.
Nita is being attacked, and his close associates, they all know, and they treated him with, such respect and reverence.
Right. Not only like I know Mataji, we will always say his close associates only know, but if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you'll see like when he went to Bachashpati's house, right? Hundreds of thousands of people were coming and chanting, where is the Supreme Lord Chaitanya? Where is he? And then Swarup Damodar like teased Mahaprabhu, saying, what kind of personality you have? You hide yourself to your own associates and reveal yourself to the outsiders. So I think I always have this question. Yeah, I mean, I read a little bit of Ram Lila, little bit of Krishna Lila. I think more people knew about the divinity of Mahaprabhu during his presence in the world than a combined number of people in Ram Lila and Krishna Lila. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying like more people knew about that Gauranga is the Supreme Lord during when he was present.
Oh, when he was present.
Then the combined number of people that knew of the divinity of Krishna and Rama when they were present. Like how many people knew Krishna was the Supreme Lord when he was here? We don't see that many. But hundreds of thousands of people went to Bachashpati's house, is described in Chaitamrita. They are chanting, where is the Supreme Lord Chaitanya? So not only his associates, even outsiders knew too.
Yeah, I mean, I can be a devil's advocate. You know what a devil's advocate means? Just for argument's sake, if you go to India today, there's so many people who worship so many people saying they're the Supreme Lord, they're God. And even we just read today about, what's his name? We were just reading about the Vallabhacharya, that it says that, well, he's, this is Wikipedia, so I'm not saying this is anything bona fide, but they get it from different people who put it in. But basically that he's the fire god, and he was a sannyasi. He was renounced, and some god told him that he should give up his renunciation, and get married, because his two kids are one is going to be Krishna, one's going to be Balaram, his two sons. So, I mean, it's like, where did they get this stuff from? And this is just an ordinary person, not just ordinary, but he was just a Jiva Tattva, and people are saying this about him. So people say a lot of things and think a lot of things, and you do something wonderful and you're God. And 500 years ago, I don't know how people were thinking. So there's two things. There's the devotees who know Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord, and they know it because of Shastra in so many ways. And other people might just thinking because he does so many amazing things that he must be God. So they're a little simpler. So I don't know, but I don't know how many people thought he was God, how many people thought he was a devotee. You might be right. Maybe more people thought he was God. And you can't say about Ramachandra, who knows how many people thought he was God. This was millions of years ago. And Krishna was only 5,000 years ago. But Krishna, it does say that most people didn't think he was God. I don't know. He put them under this illusion, I guess. And the one time he comes as a devotee, then they think he's God. So I don't know.
So Prabhu, one.
Yes.
Sorry, one. So one devotee asked a question to Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, that why did Lord Chaitanya, try to conceal his identity? Then Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gave a good, beautiful answer. He said, because the inner reason, internal reason of Lord Chaitanya's advent is that he wanted to release the mode of the Radharani, release the mode of Radharani. So whenever somebody is telling him you are Krishna, it was is stopping him from releasing the devotee mode. This is why he was covering his ears. That is another reason. But the reason we worship, because his external reason, he's a Juga avatar, and to get his message across in important way, we have to worship him as a Supreme Lord. Otherwise, if he will be just as another Acharya.
Even that, I'm just thinking there's other people who are Vaishnavas, and they say, you shouldn't put peacock feather on Lord Chaitanya's head because he's in the mood of Radharani, and you shouldn't do that. So, but Prabhupada, he never objected to us putting peacock feathers on Lord Chaitanya's head so that we can realize that he is God, he is Krishna. So there's different people think so many things, but I think as long as you're accepting Lord Chaitanya as the Supreme Lord, even though you may not, because you don't want to disturb his mood, you might worship him a little differently, but he's the Supreme Lord, then you're okay.
But he also wanted to teach that so many people may claim to be God, but there's only one God. In this age, so many people claim to be God. There's only one. Krishna's two Bhagavans.
Well, that's what he wanted to do. Krishna says, give up all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. And people are misinterpreting it that, well, I'm God, you're God, we're all God, so just surrender to myself. So he said, no, don't surrender to me, surrender to Krishna. Anyway, just think of Lord Chaitanya, you're okay.
Yeah. Because you know he's Krishna.
Right.
And Prabhupada said that people would learn Bengali so they would be able to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. So his popularity will be growing, especially Mayapur is coming up, as the great beacon. People will be attracted to go there and learn about Mahaprabhu. So the future is just the beginning.
Yeah, this is just the beginning. We have 10,000 years and we're only gone 500 of them, a little over 500, maybe 550. So we got 9,500 more years.
We're all just servants.
Hopefully we can go back home before then.
Chaitanya Dasa Muni, Chaitanya Dasa. Chaitanya Dasa Muni, Tanya Dasa Dasa. I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya, a servant of Lord Chaitanya, I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya, and a servant of his servants. So Advaita Acharya said.
I think we could leave it at that. Servant of Lord Chaitanya and a servant of his servants. But mostly a servant of Lord Chaitanya 3 times. Okay, so we can end. Thank you. I didn't ask anyone to turn on their cameras today, and nobody did.
But some have continuous pictures there.
Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna. Let's offer our obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees. Panchakalpa Tribhishya
Thank you, Mataji Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for coming on.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I could open my camera, but my effulgence will kill you, Prabhu.
Yeah, that's like Lord Chaitanya.